schedule was unique in the sense that some of it was out of my control with the conference piece of it kind of backloading us, and then the non-conference piece, we had a few unique things where you could trade 2 for 1 in future years. And the other positive piece I think about the schedule though is that it has a lot of region points available, and that's a piece that we were lacking last year that really hurt us when it came time to decide who was going to go to the NCAA tournament. So this is chock full of them. It's obviously a very difficult schedule, but we've always been a good road team and a team that enjoys being on the road together. So I'm just trying to look at the cup as half full, and we're excited that we have an enormous amount of home games in the latter part of the season. Well, I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. I also think from the inside looking out, it may not be quite as drastic as from the outside looking in. There's no doubt we lost a great class, and they built a great foundation here, and we're going to try to keep building upon that. We definitely had some special players. However, we also have players who have been in the program who people haven't had a chance to see as much, who are high level players, and who day in and day out show that they're ready for an increased role. So our goalkeeping, we're very confident with that. Abby's played in some big games for us, and she's more than competent. The back line, we did lose Lish, but we're returning 3 out of those 4 starters. So in the midfield, I think we're going to be very solid. We have Carrie back, one of our captains, sitting in there, Tiffany Van Haften, and then Bree. So really in some ways, we're returning 3 starters there. We're returning the whole midfield. Up top, it's going to be a bit of an unknown. I think every year has different challenges, and this year, last year the challenge was, we kind of knew what we had, but it was getting it right, and this year the challenge is kind of figuring out what we have early. But even up top, we have players like Jess Fuller. We think last year was as good as any forward we had on our roster. She had mono a little bit, and we had a good group of seniors in front of her last year, so it was harder for her to get minutes. But we think she's as good as we've seen. So and then we have some freshmen coming in, some transfers. We have some seniors, Bethany Fluto and Kirsten Erickson, that we think can help us out. So in some ways it makes it exciting, and we're excited for the challenge, and I'm excited to see who steps up and how our team lays out and what we're able to do on the field. The forward position, I think, especially at our level, is unique, because we used to get 20 games, we only get 18 now. So if you look at a top flight professional league, they might get 35, 40, 50 games in. So someone could go through a 10-game scoring drought, even though they're a great goal scorer, and end up the top scorer on their team or whatever it might be. Where at our level, if you get cold for a while, that could be half your season or 3/4 your season. So, it's always difficult to predict who's going to score goals. But certainly, and we don't want to put pressure on, but certainly we feel like Jess Fuller has the potential to score some goals. From a forward standpoint, I think our goals might be spread out more than they have in the past, and we might get some more goals from the midfield, and we might have to be better on our set pieces, getting our center backs up on the dead ball situations and scoring goals. And but I think there are players with potential there. I think Kirsten Erickson has potential to score some goals. I think Bethany Fluto has potential to score some goals. I think our transfer Mary O'Brien has potential to score some goals. So I think although there are a lot of unknowns, I think there is potential there. And I don't think we're going into the season with the cupboards completely bare. So I feel confident that there's going to be players who are going to step up and take advantage of the opportunity. we just don't know who that's going to be yet. Tiffany, who you mentioned, when she was a freshman, I thought there was a period of time where she was playing as well as anyone on our team and was playing at an all-conference level. Last year, she was good, but she wasn't 100% coming off her ACL. I think she was 80-85% kind of thing all year, kind of grinding it out. So this year she's going to be healthy. Carrie Mack is another kid who's just been great in terms of her humility, and she could have been starting the past couple of years for us, but came off the bench and impacted us. And then Bree at the end of last year, the last probably 6 weeks of the season, she was as good as we had on the roster. Scored some very important goals, scored the game winner against Mankato, had 5 goals last year. So really in some ways we're returning 3 starters there, returning the whole midfield. Well, we expect that Kelly Poynton is going to be our leader back there. She's, for the most part, been a starter for her entire career here, and she made a great partnership with Lish. And now we expect her to kind of fill a different role and be the role of the teacher, and form a great partnership with, Sam Lumberg or Mari Wolstead. So we expect her to be our leader and to really create a strong back line for us. And then, on the outside we have Brianna Duff and Catherine Bjorgi, and 2 veterans who both, when they're playing at their highest level, are as good as it gets in our conference. And then, in terms of our freshman class coming in, this freshman class probably was deepest at the defensive position. So we have some very strong young players who are going to push our veterans, and if anybody gets complacent, they're going to lose their spot. Well, I think Abby's done an incredible job of waiting for her time, and not just waiting for her time, but preparing for it. I have an enormous amount of respect for Abby. She always comes to training ready to work hard. Always brings a great attitude. She's humble. We're excited for her, and I think she's also been a great leader off the field for us this past spring and this summer. So she will be challenged. We have a great freshman coming in, Sonia Barr from Duluth East, very high level goalkeeper, but it's Abby's time. Well, certainly Winona State is proven to be the top dog in our conference. I think they've won it 7 years in a row. So they're always going to be favored to do that again. Duluth and Mankato are usually very strong, but I think there's lots of teams in our conference, and I think our conference has grown every year in a competitive sense. I really believe that, and I think there's a number of schools: Mary, Northern, Augustana, St. Cloud, Upper Iowa, Wayne. Just top to bottom, I think every game has potential to go either way, and I really do believe that you're going to see that more and more every year in our conference, and it is positive. And hopefully, as that happens, we get more success in the NCAA tournament from our top teams.